Coming in with more blind second decks, we have Sky Striker. Now, by the time you're watching this video, the brand new cards from the pack would have been coming out, so we'll have new Math Mech support, Cyber stuff, Vanquish Soul stuff, all of that fun stuff, and I have no doubt that I've already streamed the bollocks out of it, and I've already made videos of it as well. By the time you're seeing this, this is being recorded before the release of that pack, like a day before. So this, you know, may apply to the meta, may not, but ultimately, again, I don't see Sky Striker changing at all over the next pack, so unless something massive comes out to shock us, I doubt we're going to be seeing any changes. So this is my idea for what I think Sky Striker should look like. I picked this deck up, I played a bit with it after an opponent in the Galaxy Eyes video that was up before beat my ass with it. I decided, okay, let's pick that up, we'll play that too, and I had an absolute blast. This deck was really good. It felt amazing into many of the top threats. It felt great into Labyrinth, for example. We were able to very easily crush their back row. It felt really nice into the likes of Pearly, where we had a couple of outs to their sort of inherent cards. Some of the decks we struggled more against with the likes of Dragon Link, for example, gave us a little bit more issue than most decks. But all in all, we had a lot of really positive matchups, so I was very impressed by how the deck did, and I wanted to bring that to you guys, just to let any Striker fans out there know that it's not dead yet. You can, in fact, make this deck work without floodgates. So, if you're interested in this type of content, of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It takes 2 seconds to do it. It's free, and it does help me out quite massively. So, if you do want to show any level of support, all you need to do is hit that button. It's totally free. You can like the video as well if you enjoy watching, and if you want to engage with our channel anything more, you can of course use our Twitter, our Discord, our DeviantArt links, anything like that down in the description below, where I make regular posts on all of those platforms as well. It's running a big Discord server, so if you want involved, links are all down there. I'm not going to badge you about it though. We have some games lined up to demonstrate how the deck works for anyone who's maybe not too familiar with it, or anyone who is familiar with it is just going to like to see some satisfying Striker Smackdown and in the Diamond tier. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Alright, kicking off with game number 1 here. Going second, of course, you always want to go second playing Sky Striker. We're going to hit it with that Maxi off the rep. They're going to go for Tearlament Scream. So it's going to be against Tearlaments here for game number 1, but they're not going to want to play into that Maxi, so they're just going to set one and pass. So that, you know what, that suits us perfectly. Gives us a good opportunity to show off a little bit of Sky Striker. Now at this stage, I'm not sure if Maneuver made it into the final build, but I was initially playing it, and I did kind of like it, so, you know, it is what it is. They're going to go for a Maxi of their own, which probably explains why they were so comfortable in past a turn. They were sort of relying on that Maxi of theirs, right? So we're going to banish Maxi to negate it off of the Crossout Designator, going into Hayate. Now, Sky Striker kind of sort of has the ability to go for Lethal. We're going to send the Ray to the graveyard off the Hayate. We're gonna go into Kagiri here. Kagiri going to add back the engage from the graveyard. We're gonna swing with our 2800 Kagiri as well, doing as much damage as we possibly can, going for the engage here too. We're gonna grab multi-roll. This is part of an important little combo that you should probably know if you're deciding to play Sky Striker. So if you play multi-roll, then during the end phase, if you toggle on, add the Widow Anchor off of your Shizuku, then quickly activate it to negate your own Shizuku. Multi-roll will then activate to set that card back to your field. Now what that means is, of course, now this card is face down and can be used during your opponent's turn. Otherwise it would have been in your hand and not usable until your next turn. So it's just a way of getting access basically to a faster monster negate, which is very useful. They're going to go for the Tearlament Siren here. We're going to hit that Scream with a Ash Blossom. We really don't need this guy milling any additional cards for us. We have a couple of monster negates on board as well. They are going to go for Triple Tactics Thrust, grabbing Triple Tactics talent from the deck. They're going to use that talent. Now they're sort of forced to draw 2 cards here because they really don't have a lot in the way of card advantage going for them. They're simply going to set 2 and they're going to pass. They don't have any more plays to make, and that suits us perfectly because we're just going to top deck Harpy's Feather Duster because we're just that guy, easily wiping up the back row and taking game 1. Now that was a bit of a straightforward one. Of course, our opponent didn't have any really fancy plays or anything like that, but usually it doesn't really matter that much because you're just going to break their board. But let's get into game number 2 anyways. Alright, getting into game 2, going second once again. Main phase 1, our opponent's going to go for the Labyrinth Stovey Torby. What the hell is that thing's name? Is that actually that thing's name? Have I been saying it wrong this entire time? It is, it's Stovey. What the hell? That's awful. Anyways, getting into our battle phase, we are going to hit this clown with Evenly Matched because of course we are. You know, we're playing Evenly Matched for a damn reason. We're going to chain the Maxi to the big welcome Labyrinth so we can draw a card upon the resolution of it, but he is going to be playing a Call by the Grave followed by a Maxi of his own, going to limit the amount that we're going to be able to special summon without giving him a significant amount of advantage. And trust me, against the likes of Labyrinth, you're really not going to want to play that game with him. So they're going to banish our Maxi, that's totally fine. Ours does not resolve and theirs does. Big welcome, bringing out lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle, bouncing back the Chandelier to hand, Evenly Matched, then wiping out the back row, at the very least preventing a big welcome bounce later in the turn. They are going to go for Torby here, as well as lovely Labyrinth to try and snipe a card out of our hand. We are going to negate that, because we really don't want to be dancing around with that too much. We do have Thrust and Engage in hand though, so even going in the main phase 2, we have a ton of room for maneuvering. We are going to go for Thrust, grabbing another copy of Engage, because it's not once per turn. So let's go. Gonna grab Ray. We don't do a draw one on this effect, but I believe after this one we get to grab the Afterburners and draw an additional card because we have 3 or more spells in grave. Afterburners popping the lovely normal summoning out the Ray. We don't need to go crazy with this turn. They are going to activate Torby, drawing 2. That's why we kept Call by in hand, because we knew that that's exactly what they were going to be doing. So Torby is getting banished and negated. Only card in hand and only card left on the field, both sent to the grave for no reason. We have a monster to get, and our Ray can tag out at any point during our opponent's turn. They're going to set a card and pass. We're going to quickly tag out into the Sky Striker Ace Kagiri, and this is exactly what I was talking about before at the beginning of the video when I was talking about longer games. Actually, I might have talked about that more in my Galaxy Eyes video. Apologies. But basically, we're able to cycle through all of these powerful cards and generate a crazy amount of card advantage. Raigeki clearing out the back row, of the monsters. I don't know what that is. It was the Torby, 2000 defense, pain in the ass. We're not even going to deal with it. Into the Hayate, swinging for 15. Hayate going to get milling. We're going to send a Rose to grave, because with Rose in grave, we're now going to use Mobilize Linkage to summon a Kagiri with an additional, I think it's 1000 attack points, which is kind of nice. We're going to grab back Engage from grave once again, because it is not once per turn, which is pretty damn stupid. Swinging for 32, Engage during main phase 2, grabbing multi-roll. Going to go into the same combo we saw before, but we did draw in the another Linkage, which is going to be useful down the line. We're going to go multi-roll now, of course, setting 2, using Shizuku, grabbing the Hornet drones, because we actually, I believe we already have all of our Widow Anchors in play, right? I'm pretty sure either that or we just decided that it wasn't worth grabbing another one. Because we already have one face down, we have one in grave. Am I wrong about what the third one is? Maybe it is still in deck. But we decided to grab Hornet drones anyways, just to be safe. Again, there's no real purpose in going too overboard. And yeah, our opponent just simply cannot handle the amount of advantage that we're generating. And that's a good example of what I mean. I talked about this in my Galaxy Eyes video. The difference between a blind second OTK deck and the difference between Sky Striker, which is not an OTK deck, it's just blind second, is that Galaxy Eyes, for example, or 8 Axis or whatever, is going to break your board because it wants to break you turn 1. Striker is going to break your board so you're not generating card advantage, so that I can out advantage you as the game goes on, picking apart your resources, drawing a bunch of cards, searching a bunch of cards, reviving a bunch of cards. It basically just makes it as difficult as possible for you to win the long game, which is the entire game plan of Sky Strikers. But yeah, that's game number 2. Let's get into number 3. Alright, getting into game number 3 here, of course, going second, pretty standard, and Dear Servant telling us that we're more than likely going to be going up against some form of a Labyrinth deck. We are going to go for Max C here, just because it's unclear as to whether or not our opponent is going to attempt a special summon. They may not, they may, who knows. They're going to go Guerrero +1 here. That Nadir Servant is an incredible amount of advantage. Normal summon the Ecclesia, grabbing the Dogmatic of Punishment, going to go for the Chandelier now, dropping a Droll to set the Big Welcome Labyrinth, to the field, alongside 2 additional cards, at least one of which we know is, of course, the Punishment. We draw in the Linkage, which is decent. We're going to go for Pot of Prosperity here. We're going to draw, check the top 6 cards of our deck to see if there's a usable card among them, and one of those cards is Harpy's Feather Duster, so you know for a damn fact your boy is going to pick up that Duster. We're going to dust away that back row. Now that Droll and Lockbird is in fact a huge problem. They're going to go for the lovely here, bouncing Ecclesia back to hand. I don't know if they're just going for the 1 in 5 snipe to try and hit that Harpy's Feather Duster, but you know what, fair play to you in trying to make it happen. It is a brave choice. Grabbing back the Chandelier from the graveyard, of course. They're going to chain link 1, pop a card in hand. They hit the Jamming Waves, which, you know, is fine. Card is fine. Wiping out the back row now off the Feather Duster, sending it all to the graveyard, an Imperm and a Punishment maneuver, then sending the Lovely to the grave as well. Going into Ray. Ray swinging for 750. Going to now use its effect to quick link off into Hayate. Hayate swinging for 750 as well. Going to use it to send Shark Cannon to grave. Again, remember, we are currently under Droll and Lockbird, so we're going to go for Kagiri. Kagiri's going to grab back the Shark Cannon because at the very least it's going to be a card that we can potentially use to shut down a big Welcome, trying to bring back a card. They're going to go for the Welcome Labyrinth here from the deck. Unfortunately, they're going to go for Lady Labyrinth as well, summoning itself out to the field. This is really not an ideal situation for us, and they're very much putting the foot on our neck as the game continues. Labyrinth is one of those decks where you either need to really crush them early, or they're going to match or even outpace your resource game as the game carries on, because their monsters are a lot bigger and meaner than yours. Not only do they have really powerful back row, their actual just mainline monsters are just absolute menaces compared to your dinky little 1500 attack point monsters, right? We are going to go for Shark Cannon here, going to banish the Lovely from grave. I can't remember why exactly we did that right now, but we chose to, so here it is. Going to go for Ray, linking off into Kagiri. We're going to use Kagiri now. Kagiri is going to grab back the Afterburners from the graveyard, which is a good add. They are going to go for Big Welcome, though, getting rid of our Kagiri, sending it back to the extra deck, which I'm, kind of sort of okay with, I'm not going to lie. Going to go for the Chandelier. Chandelier adding itself back to the hand, of course. And swinging directly for 16, that's a-okay. Using the Chandelier, dropping the remaining 2 cards in hand to bring out another Welcome Labyrinth. So now that they've got their welcome loop in place, it's going to be a little bit difficult for us to try and break this. Reinforcements, not the worst card in the world to draw. We are going to get rid of the Ariana here, as well as that Welcome Labyrinth before it can be used for any nefarious deeds. Going to grab Rose from deck. Rose then, of course, we knew that this was going to happen, which is why we didn't grab Ray, because ultimately it wouldn't have bloody mattered, thanks to that field spell that's in play. But honestly, there's not really a ton that we could have done here. Daruyuma Cannon is a hard counter to the Sky Striker deck. It really does make life very difficult, and I don't believe at this stage that we stuck around for very much longer, because, yeah, look at that. Chain Link 4 on my turn for card advantage? Yeah, buddy. Good for you. We end our turn. They're going to go for Lady. Tributing off the Torby in the card in hand. They're going to set a Big Welcome to the field. Going to speed the game up here because it really is a sort of open and shut book at this stage. Going for Big Welcome, summon out the Lady. I think I let them go for game. No, they continue to BM, okay. Here we are, in the battle phase, 3k and 3k. We let them have their fun, we let them BM, that's fine. You want to BM, by all means, buddy, you won the duel, you earned it. And there you go. So that was the losing match for Sky Strikers against Labyrinth. Labyrinth is definitely one of the deck's hardest matchups, purely because it does the same thing as you, but it does it from a perspective of going first, which number 1 is inherently stronger, but number 2, it has strengths where you have weaknesses, right? So the big thing about Labyrinth is that the deck doesn't really have any inherent weaknesses, right? Of course, it gets hit pretty hard by certain board breakers and everything, but what deck doesn't? But for the most part, the deck doesn't really have any big downsides. Now, Sky Striker would be like that if our monsters weren't so goddamn small all of the time. So because your monsters are so small, it's easy for it to become a very uphill battle for you, because not only are you battling from a perspective of resources, you're also needing to cope with the fact that your monsters are constantly getting crushed by battle as well. It just becomes very difficult, so it does. In certain situations, if you can absolutely blitz them and shut them down and set up something crazy, then sure, you can keep them down and you can win the game. But in most situations, the deck that's going to give you the most hassle is definitely going to be Labyrinth. But I'm not going to ramble here. Let's get into the actual deck profile. Already getting into the deck profile, so the actual deck itself is pretty straightforward. We're not going to spend too much time talking about it because in terms of the cards themselves, they're not that complicated. It's more so around the plays, and again, I showed you some of the plays in the gameplay. We've talked about some of them as we've gone along, but a lot of it is going to come down to practice and sequencing. So I can't guide you through 100% how to play the deck and how to use the deck and the best thing here and the best thing there, because a lot of it needs to come from experience. Otherwise, it's simply not going to stick. So I'll take you through the deck, I'll take you through what I've built, why I've put in what I've put in. You can agree with me, disagree with me, do whatever, and take it from there. So let's get in. First of all, triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom, of course. Ash Blossom is really good not only against Maxi, which admittedly you don't like, of course, right? But you do have plays around it rather than just instantly dying to it, right? So Maxi isn't the end of the world, but you would definitely rather them not draw any cards, right? So Ash is useful. It's still really useful against the likes of Branded, against certain Bestial setups or D-Link setups, sorry, against Pearly. So yeah, Ash is pretty good, I think. If you wanted to take it out, I wouldn't blame you. If you wanted to play the likes of, I don't know, Imperm instead, that would be totally fine. Imperm makes you less susceptible to the likes of Thrust and Talents. So, you know what, it's a mixed bag. You can sort of do with that as you will, but I like the Triple Ash. Triple Ray, this is your main sort of monster, right? This is the monster around which the deck centers. It basically has a quick effect that allows you to tribute the card to special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And while it's in your graveyard, if a face-up Sky Striker Ace Link monster leaves the field, you can special summon this card back. So that's pretty good. It basically helps you tag in and out of your big Link monster. I say big. In and out of your Link monsters. And the way the deck works, first and foremost, before I even get into the spells, is that it's sort of like a one-man show. Your deck functions on the principle that the only monster you want to have on your field is one in your extra monster zone. You want it to be one of your Sky Striker Aces. You don't want to have any monsters in your main monster zones at all, which is why we don't play the likes of Nibiru, because it's not really conducive to that goal. So you don't want anything in your main monster zone. So being able to just do this sort of one-man show thing is exactly what Sky Striker wants. Rose, in direct congruity to that point, if you have a Sky Striker Ace monster summoned to your field, you can special summon this card out from your hand as well. Basically just an additional body, but it's more useful for some of its applications later in the game in terms of going for lethal off the likes of Linkage. Again, it's just a fourth monster. It's another Rhoda target. It's basically not really doing anything super fancy. If an opponent's monster in the extra monster zone is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of your card effect while it's in the graveyard, special summon this card back, then negate something. Kinda cool. Not really useful every single game, but it comes up often enough to definitely justify the one of, because it's not really a brick, right? If you have it in hand, you just normal summon it and use it to link off. Start your plays as normal. That's fine. We have Surgical Striker Hamp. In theory, this was meant to be the out to Pearly. During testing, I didn't come across a ton of Pearly though, I'm not going to lie, and even the ones that we did come across, we were able to crush quite handily. The idea is that this is essentially a searchable kaiju, so it should, in theory, be able to get rid of Noir, although again, I hadn't actually had the chance to test that, so I might be wrong about that, so you guys tell me below if that actually even works. As far as I'm aware, it should, but I've been wrong before. Not very often, but it happens. So you can let me know what exactly the card ruling is there, but basically this guy's, he's a big scurry kaiju. You can search for him, special summon him to either side of the field by tributing a monster from that side of the field, and then when it's destroyed, you get to destroy a card your opponent controls. So it sort of like removes two of your opponent's cards, which is nice. In terms of our spells, we've got Darkhold to wipe the board of monsters, Raigeki to destroy all your opponent's monsters, Feather Duster to destroy all spells and traps, Upstart to draw one, Ruda searches a warrior, Engage searches a Sky Striker card, and if you have 3 or more spells in grave, will draw you an extra card, not once per turn. Pretty disgusting. We have Afterburners pop up face up monster, and if you have 3 or more spells in grave, pop a back row. Talent is pretty damn solid in this deck. We ended up cutting Jamming Waves in favor of Talent. I wasn't originally playing it, but this card's pretty solid. You can either draw 2 cards, take control of a monster, or shuffle up a card in your opponent's hand back into the deck. Pretty broken. Pot of Prosperity to get searching. Thrust to get searching for your deck for any normal spell or trap during the turn in which your opponent activates a monster effect, which is absolutely disgusting in this deck, because this deck thrives off having loads of spells in grave and thrives off of the power of a lot of its normal spells. Running the field spell, which, you know, it's kind of okay, it's kind of mid, I'm not going to lie. I would potentially even cut this for Jamming Waves again. But you can target a card you control, execute the top 3 of the cards of your deck, and if one of them was a Sky Striker card, add it to hand, and then send the targeted card to the graveyard. If this card in the field zone sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck. Kinda neat. Really not all that brutally useful, but it does come up sometimes, especially in combination with the likes of Multi-Roll. Because Multi-Roll has 2 main effects. Number 1, you can target another card you control and send it to the graveyard, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spells for the rest of the turn, which is pretty damn sick. So you can send the likes of your field spell off of Multi-Roll to make your spells immune to interaction. while also using your Area 0 to special summon an ace from your deck. So it's a pretty nice little combo. The second effect of this card is during your end phase. During the end phase of your turn, you can set Sky Striker spells of different names from your graveyard to the field, up to the number of different Sky Striker cards you activated during that turn. We have double called by, pretty standard. Hornet Drones special summons a Sky Striker Ace token to your field, basically used for link climbing. We have triple Widow Anchor, which is a quick play spell. You target a monster in the main monster zone. You target a face-up effect monster on the field, negate its effects, and if you have 3 or more spells in grave, you take control of it until the end of the turn. Shark Cannon. Target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish that target, or if you have 3 or more spells in grave, you can special summon it to your field. Linkage. You will send a card you control to the graveyard to special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster directly to the extra monster zone, and if you have both a light and dark monster in the grave, that monster gains 1,000 attack points. Again, none of these cards are once per turn. Do bear that in mind. None of them. And lastly, we have Evenly Matched, which is a pretty good generic board breaker. So there you go. The actual main deck itself, super simple. Little pricey. Some of the cards are a little pricey. You got the double engage here. You got the triple linkage, which is a little pricey. You got the Hamp, which you can take it or leave it with a Hamp. You don't have to play it, but I would because of Pearly. So there's what, 6 main deck URs. And then your 3 extra deck URs, which we'll talk about now. So it is a little bit pricey, but it is what it is. We got the triple Kagiri. This card originally was limited to 1 and has now come off the ban list. Sky Strikers, slowly but surely, making its way off the ban list. Kagiri, completely unlimited. Now we've got Engage to 2 and Hornet Drones to 1. After that, if we get these cards back, we Gucci. I don't see Hornet Drones coming back to 3 anytime soon because of its application with like other decks and stuff like that, and how it can just be like a generic sort of abusable engine. So, you know, I'm not really expecting to see this card back anytime soon, but Engage, we could definitely see Engage to 3. I think Engage to 3 is 100% something that we could be seeing. But anyways, I digress. Kagiri. On summon, target a Sky Striker spell in grave, add it to hand. Gains 100 attack for every spell in grave. Shizuku, during the end phase of your turn, will search your deck for a Sky Striker card and add it to your hand. Your opponent's monsters all lose 100 attack and defense for every spell in grave. Hayate can attack your opponent directly, and after damage calculation, if it has battled, you can send a Sky Striker card from the deck to the graveyard. Kiana will, on summon, target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It can't attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. Every time you use a Sky Striker spell or its effect, you gain 100 life points. I wish it was 1,000. Zeke is a card once per turn. If it's link summoned, you can target a face-up monster on the field, banish it until your opponent's next end phase. Makes it basically temporary spot removal. As a link too, it's also usually your way of getting rid of like a Nibiru token or something like that, where they give you a monster, or even like an Ibli or something like that. This is usually your way out that. You've got Dark the Dark Charmer, essentially part of your little link up package. Dark, being able to bring back a Dark from your opponent's grave, allows you to go into the link 3 Unicorn and then finally into the access code Talker for game. That is the idea. So access code Talker pops a bunch of cards, Unicorn gets spinning, basically helps you decimate a board, and then eventually press for lethal. Now, how does the actual extra deck work? Well, you're usually going to do it in a pretty specific sequence. You're going to do Hayate first to attack, mill something like your Engage or mill whatever. Then in main phase 2, or if you have linkage, you can do it during the battle phase, you're going to summon Kagiri. Kagiri adds back the card that you milled off a Hayate. Then during the end phase, Shizuku will grab you an additional card. If you manage to get access to multi-rule, you can even set that card to the field if it's the likes of a Widow Anchor. But basically Shizuku is like an end phase search as well. So a lot of plussing going on there, a little bit of damage going on too. Got a lot of versatility when it comes to what spells you play and what you don't play. So realistically, all I can say is have fun with it. Play around, experiment with different cards. I would be careful about anything that would summon anything to your field, like Karakura and Nibiru, not really the best choices in the world. You can maybe get away with Karakura, and Nibiru, I mean, you can. Again, you have Zeke, so you can technically get away with it. But yeah, I mean, it's up to you, right? You can do whatever you want. But yeah, that's the deck. Hope you enjoyed. If you've got any suggestions, any questions, anything like that, you can leave them below, or better yet, hop into the Discord and ask, where you can get input from the whole sort of community of around 300 people at this stage. So yeah, that's the best way to sort of leave suggestions, ask questions, do anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if you haven't. Check out one of the other videos you're seeing on screen right now if you want to get even more cool deck profiles and cool deck building tips. But I'm just going to leave it there. I'll see you next time.